What does it take to make progress with pelvic physical therapy? If you've wondered that, then stay tuned to this episode. Hi, for those of you that are new here, my name is Dr. Kari Roberts, and I'm the physical therapist here at Marone Pelvic Health. And here on this podcast, I like to normalize the conversations around pelvic physical therapy and pelvic health in general. And today, I wanted to talk about what it takes to get results from pelvic physical therapy and what it just takes to really make favorable outcomes or get meet those goals with pelvic physical therapy. And the reason why I'm discussing this is twofold. One is because something that I'm going through personally, and two, because of a conversation that has kind of been coming up multiple times with a specific client. Now, what's going on with a client, it's like, it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And what I've noticed is when she has 2 steps forward, she is like, "Oh my goodness, everything's working great. I don't think I need to come. Things are being amazing." And then I'm having the conversation. Let's call her Stephanie, just to keep it neutral. Stephanie. Stephanie, even though things are going great, we still need to continue to be consistent and continue to push forward towards your goals. Just because you're doing great, you're going to hit that plateau. You might have that step backwards. So we're having that conversation. And then when she falls off the bandwagon and is not consistent, and she takes that instead of a step back, she might take 2 steps back or maybe 3 steps back. Then it's the world is falling. Nothing is working. Now I don't want to come in because therapy is not working. So then we have to have the conversation. Stephanie, you haven't really been consistent. You kind of you fell off with the things that we know that have been working. Let's go back to square one and let's try to get back on board with things that we know that are working so that you can have a measure of consistency, meet some goals, and then now we can start building on some progress so that you can start moving forward again. And how this ties in with me is I had to have come to Jesus with myself. I'm not where I want to be physically. I'm not where I want to be physically as far as how I feel in my skin. I'm not where I want to be physically as far as how I look when I look in the mirror, how I feel when I'm moving around in the world. And I am a physical therapist, and I needed to stop making excuses for myself. And it's like, if I'm choosing to not be consistent with what I know I need to do to eat right or to exercise, then I know I am choosing for these outcomes to be physically not in shape. If I'm choosing to not do my exercises, right? If I'm choosing to not do my pelvic floor exercises, then I am choosing to have a bladder flare up. For me personally, that's not true with everybody because some people's bladder flare ups are due to stresses or things that are happening outside of their control. So I'm not putting any of this on them, but I know my body. And for my body personally, I need to have a consistent routine with my stretches and some of those other things so that I don't have a flare up. And so when I was having this conversation with Stephanie, we'll call her Stephanie, I was realizing I'm actually talking to myself here. I need to be consistent with what I'm doing with my pelvic floor, and I need to be consistent with what I want to do with my body physically so that I can feel good, right? So I need to make a decision. I'm going to be consistent with my pelvic floor exercises so that my bladder can be under control. I need to be consistent with my exercises at the gym so that I can feel better in my skin. So then that got me thinking about I need to make sure that as a physical therapist, when I'm creating exercise plans and treatment plans for my patients, I need to make sure that I'm meeting them where they are so that we can keep the momentum moving forward, so that they are feeling like they're making progress, so that we can just keep that forward progress and they can feel that progress that they're being made and they can feel that they are moving forward and that they are attaining goals and they're reaching their goals. So that made me think about what does it look like to create goals that are achievable? So I really think that you need to create realistic goals. And so when I say a realistic goal, I don't necessarily mean that goal, which might be you're going to pelvic physical therapy so that you can stop leaking when you lift. That might be your ultimate goal, right? So you can stop leaking when you lift. But you might have a bunch of other little goals. So you might have another goal where maybe your pelvic physical therapist is giving you some exercises that she needs you to do a couple of days a week, or she might have you do some deep breathing a couple of times a day, or she might be having you do a bladder log, or she might have you watch what you're eating or watch how you're managing your stress or things like that. So how can me as a physical therapist, how can I give those kind of instructions and make it so that my patients can follow through on those things? So those little incremental goals, how can I make those things realistic? And so I came up with a list of things that I think can help these things be attainable or realistic, sorry, how these things can be realistic. And so what I came up with was making sure that the goal is attainable. So I had a patient that was here just a little while ago, and she came in and she says, I'm not doing my homework. I'm not doing my homework. My home life is going through transition. I've got multiple children. My life is in transition. My work is in transition. There are a lot of things going on. I don't have time for it. So if I'm telling her you need to do these exercises every day, it's not going to happen. Okay, so what does your work day week look like? Okay. What do your weekends look like? Okay. So instead of saying you need to do these exercises every day, knowing it's not going to happen, what can we do to make sure that you can get this in at least once a week? Can we be consistent once a week? Now, I just took that meaningful activity and I made it attainable because we found a space in her week where it is attainable. So, yes, you have a pocket of time on Wednesday where you can do this thing on a consistent basis. So now that thing is now attainable because we found a pocket of time where you can do it. And she is the type of person where once it's in her planner, it's as good as done. She put it in her planner. She's like, okay, I can do this on Wednesdays. Something else that can make a goal realistic is make it beneficial. I don't want you to do something just to check a box. For me, I'm not making a goal to go to the gym. My personal goal is to work out and weight train at least 2 days a week. I'm not weight training 2 days a week just for the fact of checking a box. No, I'm not doing it just to check a box. I'm doing it for benefit. What are the benefits? I personally want to I want to get stronger. I want my blood work to be better the next time I go to the doctor. So, what is the benefit for my patient? Why do I want you to do this thing? What is the reason? So, if you're struggling with trying to have a goal and you're wanting it to be realistic, associate it with a why that is meaningful. Why? Why do you wanna do it? What is the benefit of you being consistent with this goal, be it 1 day a week or 5 days a week or once a day or whatever the case may be? Why is it beneficial? The next thing is, how does it impact your life? Make sure that that goal is impactful. For my patient, it is impactful because as she starts to make progress with that thing on a weekly basis, it's going to help her with her bladder control. As her bladder control improves, it's going to help her with how she functions at home with her family and how she functions at work at work. For me, how is it impactful? It'll be impactful for me because I will be able to move around the world better because I will be stronger. And I will feel stronger up and down the stairs and things like that. So how will that impact the life? So we've got a why with the benefit. We've got an impact. So how does it impact your life? The next thing is it enforceable? How are you going to enforce it? So with my patient, she's one of these people where she pulled out her planner, she put it in her phone on the calendar, it's as good as done. Other people, you might need to write it out on scratch paper. Other people, you might need to put it in as a routine. Every time I do this, I do that. How can you make it something that's enforceable or trackable or a way to make sure you get it done? Another patient that I had today, she brings her husband to all of her appointments. Her husband I always tease him, he's my assistant. She's really not that great with her with following up with her exercises, but he gives her a gentle reminder. Babe, did you do your exercises? Babe, you're going back to therapy in a couple of days. We're spending this money. We're taking time out of our schedules. Can you do these exercises? So he is what makes it enforceable. Like, do you have a buddy system? Do you have an accountability partner? What can you put in your life to make sure that you're going to enforce and actually do this goal? And then the fifth thing is it meaningful? Is that goal meaningful? How is it valuable in your life? Again, it's beyond just checking a box. So when I think about my patient that was kind of like when she feels great, she drops off. And when she feels not so great, she drops off. Well, the meaningfulness is if when she's consistent and she sticks to it, even when she's feeling good and she builds on that progress, now she's like, Dr. Carey, I'm feeling good. Now I'm able to go out with friends. Now I'm able to engage in these sporting activities and I don't feel pain. Now I'm able to do these other things and I don't feel uncomfortable when I'm out with friends and I'm sitting in the seat. And now I'm able to have a little bit more of a social life because I'm not impacted by these other things. See, now she's able to, her life is enriched. The meaningfulness is really coming to play because she's not impacted with all these other pelvic floor issues. My patient that I said, "Can we do this thing one at a time?" Her meaningfulness is, now she's able to spend more time with her family. She's not so impacted by negatively by having this issue because she's able to carve out time to get some of this homework done. So just as a review, when you really want to make some headway with your pelvic floor therapy, or if you're thinking about doing pelvic floor and you're like, what is it going to be like? It's probably going to be two steps forward and one step back, just like everything else. You think about when you're losing weight, you're doing you make a change and you get a result and it feels good. Okay, you blah, blah, blah. You drop that 5 pounds. You're like, okay, that's great. Well, how do you drop the next 10? You gotta do the same thing over and over and over. You gotta be consistent, consistent, consistent. You don't always see big changes, or you might have a lull for a long time and then drop a little bit more, and then a lull for a little bit more, and then drop a little bit more. The same thing is true with how our body responds to physical therapy or any kind of change that you're making. You've got to be consistent. And the way that you can be consistent is to create these realistic goals that are that are attainable. You find ways that you can actually really do this in real life. They are beneficial, that you have a real why attached to that goal, a meaningful why. They are impactful, they enrich your life. They are enforceable. You have an accountability partner or a schedule or a tracker or something that really helps you make sure you follow through with this goal. And it's meaningful. It's something that makes you feel good, or it's a way that it enhances your life. So hopefully this little conversation about how to be consistent with your goals helps you not only have a peek inside what it looks like to be a pelvic floor physical therapy patient, but just really what it's like to be a good patient in general whenever you're going through physical therapy. And if you're thinking about, hey, I think I might want to work under Carrie's tutelage and see what she can help me with, contact me. I would love to be able to have the opportunity to work with you. I would love to be able to flex my mental skills on you and see if we can partner together and I can help you create some of these realistic goals to overcome some of your challenges too. See you. One other thing. I have a patient that is an avid listener, and I know she's like, Carrie said she was going to be every 2 weeks, and this podcast is coming out a week later. You know who you are? And I want to say I'm sorry because I know this is coming out a week late, and I owe you one. And then this is not forgotten on me. So here's to being consistent or not consistent. Here's to holding myself accountable for being a week late. And I thank you for being an avid listener. And I thank you for holding me accountable. And I will be back in your earbuds in 2 weeks with another episode.